Hello and welcome to this information session about the Creative Writing MLitt at the University of Glasgow. I'm Colin Hurd and I currently convene the programme, and I'm joined today by some mix of a range of people on the panel, from our colleague Nikki Melville, and 3 students as well. So I'll just introduce them briefly. And then we'll get on with the discussion. So Nikki Melville, as I mentioned, is a colleague and lecturer on the Creative Writing programme, and also a fantastic poet who's taught across a range of different courses on the programme, and you'll hear about them shortly. We also have Claire, Devon Jenner and Vivian, who are students who are currently on the MLitt, so getting ready to submit their final portfolios, and they're here to give you a student perspective on the programme. So I'm just going to talk briefly about, to give an overview of creative writing here at the University of Glasgow, and then I'm going to hand over to Nikki and Claire and Devon Jenner and Vivian. Do please pop your questions into the chat if you have any questions about the programme or things that you want more information on as we're going along. Please do pop them in and we'll address them in the Q&A section. Okay, so I was trying to think in preparing for this information session, I was trying to think about what makes creative writing here at University of Glasgow unique. And so the MLitt has been established, it's one of the longest established in Scotland, it's been running for over 20 years. And, we are extremely fortunate that we have a really incredible roster of successful published authors that emerge from the program. And year on year, we have students who achieve, and graduates who achieve amazing success. So just this week, a novelist who has their book, their debut novel just come out simultaneously in the UK and America, has this incredible review in the New York Times. And it's just so kind of heartening and exciting to see that as lecturers on the program, the success that our students achieve in the world of writing. And that's, that we've, especially in the last few years, that's been a real thrill. We've had some amazing successes from kind of prize-winning writers and just really well-reviewed and well-received publications. So I was trying to think about what makes creative writing at Glasgow unique. And I think one of the things is that we really work in a very kind of unprogrammatic way with you and your ambitions and your sense of yourselves as writers. So even though, obviously it's a top program, it's a PGT program. So even though there are, top courses that form the basis of the program, it's really tailored to give you the opportunity to work on your own individual kind of obsessions and enthusiasms and kind of ambitions as writers. So you're never sort of asked to write in any particular way or any particular style. You're really encouraged to see the kind of full potential of what it is you want to achieve. And people arrive on the program, from different academic backgrounds and from different kind of histories with their own writing. So some people arrive with a really strong sense of a particular project that they want to use the MLitt to achieve, e.g. write a collection of essays and be in a position to submit that to agents by the end of the program, or write a novel or short stories or a collection of poetry, or hybrid writing. Some people arrive with a really strong sense and vision of that, and then they use the program sort of across all the different elements of the program, which you'll hear about, they use to work on that one particular project. But other people arrive at the program with not such a strong sense of, they have a strong sense of themselves as a writer because, frankly, to be accepted onto this program, you need to have a strong sense yourself as a writer because it's a very competitive application process, and we get a huge amount of applications every year and can only accept a portion, a small proportion of those. But sometimes people arrive with wanting to try different things out, and the course is designed in such a way that it allows you to simultaneously sort of try new things out, experiment, but also hone your sense of yourself as a writer and really hone what it is you want, the kind of writing that you want to produce out there in the world. So I'm going to hand over to Nikki Melville now, who's going to take you through some of the different elements of the program and how it's designed.
Thanks, Colin. Just to say, first of all, that Colin is also a fantastic poet. So as Colin was saying, the MLitt program is very unprogrammatic and kind of tailored. We tailor our teaching and responses to you and your work. And there's a wide range of different courses that we offer. The main three are workshops, writing workshops, editing and publication, craft and experimentation. But there's also some other ones that might suit your interests, like crime writing, essay writing. But I'm just going to talk about the workshops, EP, editing and publication, and CX, which is craft and experimentation. So craft and experimentation is kind of aligns with what Colin was saying there about being unprogrammatic. There's usually around about 4 offered a year, so you can pick whichever one you like. But they're all done by different teachers with their own kind of interests as a set text. Collins, for instance, have got super up to date reading material. Mine looks at form, for instance, and these change as well quite regularly. Sometimes each year, sometimes each semester. And that's a great way to identify what you are interested in and what you might be looking to find out more about. And it's about expanding your horizons and trying new things, hence the term experimentation, and also craft, working on different aspects of your writing craft, whatever that may be. The other sort of part that's unprogrammatic is sort of seeing what you are like as a writer, and then as teachers we can help develop that or suggest new things that you might not have thought of, and just kind of help you sort of guide your way, guide you through the sort of writing process. Editing and publication is a 2-semester course, which is about looking at the literary industry, looking at publishing, book design, interviewing the writers, all sorts of different things. The first half we receive some guest speakers from the literary industry, so maybe an agent, someone talking about translation, that type of thing. And then you work towards, in second semester, you'll work towards your own editing and publication project, and the range of outputs can be very, very vast, from artist books, zines, to interviews, to reinterpretations of other famous literary works. And then finally, I'll just talk about the workshops. So the workshops are sort of the more typical workshops you would expect from creative writing courses, sort of more or less based around the sort of Iowa model of a couple of students presenting the work, and then feedback from the rest of the group and from the teachers. And they're great spaces for getting to know your peers, and also trying different things out in a sort of safe environment. And it can be really good fun and supportive spaces as well. So I'll hand back to Colin. Hope that sounds good to you.
Thanks so much, Nikki, and thanks so much for all the questions that are coming in. We will get to those and address them, but I wanted to, so unprogrammatic is the program that I forgot our own program for today's events, and so I was supposed to ask Claire, Devon Jenner, and Vivian about their kind of impressions of the program, and maybe sort of what you, I'm now going to address you, what you most got out of the program. So Devon Jenner, did you want to go first with maybe just your general overview of your time on the program and what you've got out of it so far?
Hi, Colin. Thank you so much for the question. Yeah, I think when I think about this program, there are 2 things I mostly want to highlight. One is the wide range of literature that I was exposed to. I think before coming to this program, I was mostly reading books in my comfort zone. But then after I joined this program, I was exposed to more experimental works, and I started appreciating works that like that I wasn't aware of more. And I felt like my style has evolved because of the literature I was exposed to. And another thing that I want to highlight is the strong sense of community. Being an international student, this big moving to a completely different country was daunting enough. And I think this program really gave me a sense of home. I think our faculty members and our classmates, it was just it was a very safe space for me, and they made sure that all of us feel included, and we always felt very seen and heard in every respect. And there have been times in the program when I have been frustrated with stuff, but I always had a space to talk about it, and I could find solidarity in my classmates, and our faculty members made sure that everything is addressed and our concerns are not dismissed. So yeah, I think these are the two things that stood out for me the most.
Thanks so much, Devon Jenner. That's really great to hear. Vivian, did you want to share some of your impressions of the program overall?
Yes, hi. Thank you, Colin, for your question as well. I would also point out two things. I think the thing I think I got most out of the whole program was the professional feedback I got from, especially from workshop, but also from other courses as well. Because for me, as someone who's writing in English as a second language, and I'm working on stories about China, but with our targeting audience in the West. So I think coming to this program is really important for me to have those Western perspectives and feedback, and that really helped me to understand the angle and the craft I should look into in terms of developing my own writing. So I think the whole the feedback I've been receiving have been played a pivotal role in developing my own craft. So I think that's one thing I found really important for me in this program. And the second one would be similar to what Dee was saying. I think the community here is really great. I remember before I came to the program, I heard Samantha Chang, who is the director for Iowa's Writers Workshop, and she said something which I can agree more. She said good writing, possibly good writing cannot be taught, but a good writer can be nurtured. So I think the community we have here in Glasgow Uni it's a place that if you take your writing very seriously, you will get a lot of support from the community, from the faculty and the classmates. Yeah. So I think for me, I think it's quite rare to find like-minded people together, and they all taking their own writing extremely seriously. So that kind of motivates me to write more as well. So the community is my is also something I really appreciate that I have access to this program.
Thanks so much, Vivian. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think one of the great opportunities, and we see it every year, of doing a program like the Creative Writing program here at the University of Glasgow is that it's such a gift to have sort of 12. Our workshops are capped at group sizes of 12, and so 12 engaged writers who all kind of understand and have a sort of solidarity with you as writers, because they understand the challenges of drafting work and redrafting work and getting feedback and getting work to that stage where it's ready to send out for publication, and also the kind of fragility and kind of tenderness of trying new things and wanting to push the boundaries of what you do. And there's it's such a gift to have that the group of writers really engaged, concentrating on your work, focusing on it and reading it. And I always love to see how the workshop groups tend to form this really close bond. And I think there's a great example of that, which is the fact that I think the workshop group that in fact all three of you are in is still running. So even though teaching is finished for the semester, you're still meeting up, which is just a kind of testament to that kind of community that you've formed. Claire, would you like to share your overall kind of sense of the program and maybe what you've got out of it the most so far? You're muted, Claire, sorry.
Of course, I muted myself. Thank you, Colin. Yeah, I think workshop was probably the biggest aspect of the year for me. It was just such a boon to be with other writers who were so vulnerable in sharing their work. And I think when we share our work, it's important to remember that we're not there to impress one another. We're there to help one another improve our work. and that kind of quickly became the focus of our group. So it shifted from being, oh, look what I can do, to help me do this and let's get this piece of work to a better place. So it was just a really nurturing environment, and I think the staff all support that. Classes like CX, class in craft and experimentation, that was wonderful because, as Dee was saying earlier, it exposes you to different works of literature that you might not have considered reading before and might not exactly enjoy reading it. You might dismiss a book and say, I don't really fancy that, but as a class, you kind of discover together the different literary devices that can help you learn and improve your writing. So I think the approach at Glasgow is very, it's just a very driven team, and you might not always understand why you're doing something at the time, but it all becomes clear. Yeah, it's a great course, and you really do get out of it what you put in. So if you're committed to joining in and being a part of it, then you'll get a lot from it, I think. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Claire. There are so many questions coming through that I'm going to sort of whip through a few of them, but there are other elements of the program that we want to talk about as well, and also get more of a student perspective on those individual aspects. So we will come to that, but I just wanted to whip through some of the questions. So there's a question, can people join the program who already have an agent? Yes, absolutely. We actually have a really varied cohort every year. So you know, we've had people who are actually already employed as, you know, university professors do our MLitt because they want to develop their writing. And we've had published writers, you know, with books, you know, already in circulation and kind of doing quite well, do the MLitt because they want to develop their craft, you know. Or sometimes we've had sort of people who are published in one genre or one form do the program to develop their skills in another genre or form. So yes, absolutely, you can join if you already have an agent. That's no barrier whatsoever. There were a couple of questions about the portfolio. So this is, I guess, the application portfolio, and really that's just about showing your. So there's no real formula about that. It's about showing your skills as a writer. So we're not looking for. It doesn't necessarily have to be absolutely polished. You know, we're looking for that sort of spark of a writer that we think, you know, we think you would benefit from the program, and we think, you know, the program could really help you achieve what you want to achieve for your writing. So yeah, it's really what you think of as your best writing. That it's not. So sometimes people submit a range of work, you know, like a few poems, a short essay, and a short story, or people do submit. Also, I noticed there was a question about whether it should be an excerpt, whether it's okay for it to be an excerpt. Absolutely. You know, sometimes we get, you know, 2 different excerpts from 2 different novels. There's really no formula. No one way is better than another. And it's just about showing what you think is your best work. And sometimes, you know, we've had people apply with a mix of poetry and fiction, and, you know, we then discuss them amongst the team members. And I should also tell you who else is on the creative writing team, which I'll do in a second. But, you know, we discuss them, and sometimes there's, you know, the poetry maybe doesn't seem quite as strong, but there's something really fascinating about the fiction. And we think they, you know, like, you know, even though maybe the poetry is not as developed as it could be, the fiction, you know, this person deserves a place in the course because this particular short story, it could just be one piece, is really, really strong. So yeah, it's totally up to you, and just what you think is your best work. Okay. I was going to tell you a little bit about the team. So, as well as myself and Nikki Melville, our other colleagues include the novelist Louise Welsh. She's our professor of creative writing. The novelist Zoe Strachan, the novelist and poet Carolyn Jess Cook, the poet who's also working on a novel due to come out very soon, Sophie Collins. The fiction writer and creative non-fiction writer Elizabeth Reeder. And also a fiction writer and creative nonfiction writer, Kerry Hudson. And then we also have a range of other colleagues who teach individual courses on the program, like the amazing poet, scholar Jane Goldman, the poet Maria Sledmere, the poet Jen Hadfield, the fiction writer and memoirist Megan Maguire, and a whole range of other tutors who teach courses on the program as well. So yeah, that's just to give you a sense of the range of kind of skills that the department has. I'll leave the one about the literary industry just now. So will those on the part-time and or distance learning version of the course have the same access to the networking opportunities agents as the full-time in-person students? Yes, absolutely. So editing and publication is taught across distance learning and on campus. And there will be, in the past, we've usually done it as one group, but for next year, we're going to do it as 2 groups. But yeah, it will be exactly the same across those groups. You'll have exactly the same access to that. And also, while I'm addressing it, I will also just say that, yes, we do think about self-publishing and lots of different alternative models of publishing on editing and publication. I actually had the pleasure yesterday of sitting in, we have a summer school going on just now for international students. And I had the pleasure yesterday of sitting in on a talk by one of our current MLitt students, who's also a visual artist. And they, for their editing and publication project, they actually sort of self-published a work, a poem on a billboard in the city centre of Glasgow. So it was a Bank of Scotland billboard, and they put their poem on top of it, and it was a really wonderful project, if slightly risky, but it was, yeah, a really great. And I had the pleasure of hearing them talk so brilliantly about writing and activism and love, actually, and this idea of the amateur and the etymology of the word amateur being with the French for love. And it was such a beautiful kind of talk they gave about this project. So yes, we think about publishing in really varied and kind of unexpected ways sometimes. And yeah, that includes self-publishing. Okay, I feel like I'm talking, so let's pause on some of these questions. There's a lot more to get through, which I will get through. But I wanted to bring back in Devon, Jenner, Claire, and Vivian. So when Nikki gave that excellent kind of outline of those different elements of the courses, I wondered if one of you wanted to talk a little bit about craft and experimentation, and if there were things in craft and experimentation that you wish you'd maybe known before you took that course, or just any advice to students about that particular course, or just an overview from a student's perspective of that course. Did one of you want to have anything to say about that?
I think with regards to what to know about it before it begins, I'm not really sure there would be much to know. The reading list is available on the university website. It's called Moodle, so it's available there before the classes start. I moved CX class. I was originally going to be in Elizabeth Reader's CX class, and I think because she's one of the more kind of prolific tutors on the course, her class was very full, and I moved CX class to Carol and Jess Cook's class because it's a really small class size. I just felt like a smaller class size might be quite a good idea, and it really was. The people that I met there and the amount of time that we had to talk and discuss things was great because it was a smaller class size. So I would say that don't always just jump on board with a tutor who seems to be really popular or who you immediately like the reading list of, because I think I said before, sometimes it takes books that you wouldn't normally drift towards to actually make you think about how you write. So I would say don't always just go with the popular choice. Not that Elizabeth Reader's class wouldn't have been absolutely amazing. It was, I'm sure it was. But I'm glad I made this decision to go to the smaller class size, yeah.
Thanks, Claire. And because you've just mentioned class size, I just want to clarify something because I think I confused matters a little bit. The overall cohort of the MLitt is much larger than 12. So the overall cohort is usually about, across distance learning and campus-based, usually about 45 students. And we have had more and we have had less, but it's usually about 45 students. But individual courses are capped. So workshops are capped at 12. and craft and experimentation is capped at 15. And then editing and publication is slightly bigger because we have the whole of the campus-based program. Next year it will be the whole of the campus-based program, and then the whole of the distance learning program in separate sessions for editing and publication. So that addresses that one. Okay, what about, so the other elements that Nikki kind of outlined were editing and publication. Devon, Jenner, or Vivian, did either of you did you have a kind of student perspective on that course if you took that one?
Yes, so the editing and publishing course for us this year was online. So I think it was a great opportunity for us to meet people outside your own cohort, like on like a workshop or the other CX class. So it was like a bigger class for me, which I found is quite exciting. And I think because the way this course is structured, like we brought in like really fantastic lecturers to talk to us about one like aspect of the public industries, and then we got divided into groups and to talk specifically with our tutors. My tutor was Caroline. So yes, I had a really great time with that tutorial group because Caroline showed us her experience in the public industry. She even showed us like her contract with the publishers, which I found extremely curious and really fun to go into some of the practical aspects of the industry.
Thanks so much, Vivian. Yeah, that's really, really helpful. And so that leaves the workshops. Devon Jenner, you have already spoken really eloquently and interestingly about the workshops, but did you have anything, was there any advice to students before joining a workshop group, or maybe anything that you wish you'd known before the workshop?
Thank you again, Colin, for your question. I think, as again, from an international student's point of view, I think when I came to Glasgow Uni, I was used to a very different system, and I didn't really know how workshops operate and how this is a system where you read your peers' work and provide them feedback. So that involves reading like a writer and not always as a reader. So that means sometimes there will be work that one person won't be able to relate to, but that doesn't say anything about the quality of the work. I think what workshops really taught me is to get out of my own shoes and to read works from other people's point of view. And the whole point of the workshop is to not look at things from my point of view or look at my peers' work from my point of view. It's just about helping them reach their literary goals and refine their own style. So before coming to the workshop, I think I didn't have that perspective. So everyone joining the workshop, I would suggest that read more, read your peers' work with as much respect as you would expect them to have for your work, and read like a writer and not as a reader.
Thanks so much, Devon Jenner. And yeah, I've been in workshops with all three of you, and you're all amazingly generous readers of your peers' work with really insightful and incisive feedback. And I think the workshop is one element of the course that sometimes people arrive, if they've never been in a creative writing workshop before, they're sometimes a little bit nervous about sharing work, or hesitant about having their peers read their work. And people can feel that it's a little bit exposing, but as you've all mentioned, like forming that bond and that kind of trust with your group of peers in the workshop is really important, and it kind of helps get over any of those kind of initial anxieties about workshop. And we've actually, this is something that's come up in student feedback this year, and we're going to sort of have a slightly more we're going to really try and make sure that workshop group dynamic starts right from the kind of beginning of the program, so that there's that we really focus on building that right from the start. Nikki, the other element of the program that we haven't spoken about yet is the tutorials. So as you know, we've both been tutors on the MLitt. I thought I'd say a little bit, and then if you want to also, if you have any kind of sense of from your side, you know, what it's like being a one-to-one tutor on the MLitt, then that would be great to hear that too. So the tutorials across the program, if you're a full-time student, you have across the whole program, whether you're full-time or part-time, you have 5 45-minute to an hour one-to-one tutorials with a tutor on the program. And you there are opportunities for you to send some work to them in advance, to your tutor in advance, and your tutor then reads that and gives you feedback in the tutorial on your work. For me, they're one of the most kind of fulfilling elements of the program, because you can usually see in those one-to-one discussions you know, sort of, it's a cliche, but like, but I'm not being graded. Pennies start to drop, and students start to like really get a sense of what they want to achieve in their work, and you know, like, and sometimes like in a tutorial, like I'll just ask a question like, but what would happen if you know, did this? And it's something you can sort of see that they've never thought of that before. And it might not even, it doesn't even have to be a good idea. Like sometimes it can be like actually not such a good idea. You're like, but what would happen if you totally, you know, like changed this character, or like just got rid of this character, or like, or what would happen if you changed the whole structure so that you actually like work from the end point of your story back through to the beginning? Or what would happen if you, you know, like actually own, like, broke this poem up into 2 poems or whatever, you know, like, and it doesn't even have to be a good idea, but it suddenly just opens up the person whose work it is to think about their work in a totally different way, and to actually see the potential to totally develop it. So it's not that they're kind of going with whatever that your idea is. It's more like they're just, you're freeing them to like think in a different way about the work. So I think the tutorials are a really valuable part, and I get so much out of those discussions as a tutor, and you know, I hope that students do as well in those one-to-one discussions. But Nikki, did you have any thoughts around the role of the tutorials in the program?
Yeah, I totally agree, Colin, that one of the most fulfilling and rewarding parts of our work. And I think permission is one thing I think that they're great for, is giving students confidence and permission to try different things. I love the sort of getting into the detail with students, and as you're saying, sort of bouncing ideas around and that type of thing, good or bad. It really becomes a kind of productive and fertile space. I mean, I recommend all sorts of different things, not just writing, but films and music and all sorts of things if it's kind of related to projects. So I really enjoy that aspect, and seeing the work develop over the year or 2 years if students part-time. And also, I was a master's student in Glasgow quite a while ago now, about 20 years ago. And tutorials then, my tutorials then were with Tom Leonard, who's Glaswegian poet. And they, again, at that point, even they were still one of the most important parts of the course, and the one I got most from. Just having that sort of quality time with a great writer is fantastic and really, really worthwhile. So yeah, so tutorials are like a key part of the program for me, and have been personally as well.
Thanks so much, Nikki. I'm going to address some more of the questions that have come through. So there's a question, is there support and understanding for neurodivergent students who may be creative in different ways, work slightly differently? So that's a really great question. The first thing to say is that, yes, the university itself has a lot of support for neurodivergent students. So if you register those neurodivergences with the university, then they will give you support in terms of alerting your lecturers and tutors to any extra support that you may need. But in addition to that, anything that you feel comfortable talking to us about, you know, we're a really understanding and I hope we are anyway, a really understanding team, and we will do whatever we can, to accommodate different methods of working. And that actually brings me on to assessment. So I'm not going to sort of, I mean, I can, if you ask a question about it, I'll go through the all the assessments for the program. But I guess what I want to say in response to your question about understanding for neurodivergent students, we are again not very programmatic about what you submit for assessment. So you are able to submit in lots of different forms. So most of our assessments are creative writing based. So they will be what we call portfolios. So that is usually nominally a 4,000 word portfolio of creative writing. But we are really open to people submitting in alternative forms for that. So, for example, we've had people submit films that they've made. We've had people submit visual work. We've had people submit performances, audio works. There's a real kind of openness to different forms and techniques and approaches and methodologies. So I think that is part of kind of accessibility considerations, because it means that people who express themselves and create and have different methods of creating have opportunities to explore those and to be graded on those according to the same criteria as the rest of the students. So yeah, that's what I would say. Okay, I have noticed all your questions about timetable, and I can't ignore them anymore. So the timetable, I will go through that. So we're actually streamlining the timetable a little bit for this year. So I'll go through full-time and part-time. And I think most of the questions were part-time, but I will go through it, and I'll just I'll mention distance learning as well, although it's fairly it mirrors the campus-based pretty much. Okay, so full-time, campus-based, and just to say as well, this is subject to minor changes. So I'm not guaranteeing it by saying it now, but this is what it's likely to be. Full-time for campus-based. On Mondays, we have, which I'll talk about more, but we have our visiting speaker session, Creative Conversations, which is every Monday on campus at 1 p.m. We'll come on to that in a bit more detail shortly, but yeah, that's at 1 p.m. on Mondays. And then 3 to 5 p.m. on Mondays is editing and publication. So Mondays, if you're on campus, in the University Chapel, we have Creative Conversations at 1, and then editing and publication 3 to 5 in a room on the campus. Distance learning, Creative Conversations is always broadcast live on Zoom, and it's always recorded. So if you can't make it for Creative Conversations live, even on Zoom, then you can follow up with the recording. And then editing and publication, again, will be 3 to 5 p.m. Via Zoom as well. On Tuesday, we will have, so in a way, Monday is Creative Conversations and EP Day, Editing and Publication Day. Tuesday is Craft and Experimentation Day. So all the way through the day from, I think, 9 till 11, then 11 till 1, 1 till 3, and 3 till 5, and then 5 to 7, I think we will have an option at that time if there's enough demand for it. There will be craft and experimentation courses with different reading lists, different tutors, all the way through the day on Tuesday. So you'll be able to select a time, and a reading list that works for you. But it could be that the reading list, if you have limited time slots on Tuesdays, then the reading list, the reading list won't run more than once. So you'll have to kind of do a balance between your time commitments and the reading list that you want. And then Wednesday will be workshop day. So we will have workshops, again, spread out in the similar way throughout the day, and including a part-time workshop, 5 till 7. So that's full-time. So you will do, if you're a full-time student, you will do, that will be your week. So those 3 main courses, craft and experimentation, workshop, and editing and publication, and then the optional visiting speaker, optional but highly recommended visiting speaker event, Creative Conversations on the Monday. If you're part-time, then in your first year, you will just take craft and experimentation and workshop. And then in your second year, you will take editing and publication and workshop. So that means in your first year, your timetable will be Tuesday, craft and experimentation, which you could select one of the ones that worked for you, or there is that 5 to 7 option if you're if you're working and you can only make it after working hours. And then on Wednesday, again, you can select a time that works for you. And then there's the 5 to 7. Just to say, the workshop for part-time is every second week. So yeah, you would have 1 week, you would have both classes, and then 1 week you would have just the craft and experimentation. So it works out as 3 hours a week. The contact time, the full time is 6 hours, but it's 1 week 4 hours, 1 week 2 hours, if that makes sense. Distance learning is the same; it mirrors that. Yeah. Although distance learning, sometimes there's more appetite for, sometimes people are doing distance learning part-time, and they're kind of more keen on having the workshop during the day. But yeah, there's always options for that. So you can attend one of the daytime workshops if that works better for you. Okay, I think I've outlined the timetable there, but just to say as well, you will be getting an email very soon with, and this was a question that we had in advance as well about reading lists. So yes, you will be getting an email in July with reading lists for you to select, and also all the course information with the exact timetable, and it shouldn't then change much from then. Yeah, you will get all of that through shortly if you've been made an offer. How much in-person would be likely for part-time? So all teaching will be in person. So everything that I've said there is on campus and in person. Is the part-time on campus and online cohort made up of the same people, or is it separate classes? So no, they are separate. So they're actually whole separate degree programs. So the MLitt by distance learning is a separate program to the MLitt on campus. Having said that, there's lots of mixing between the two, and there's lots of kind of social events and things that you might encounter, the people across the both aspects of the program. And we do briefings like assessment briefings and that sort of thing where people are, and we have reading parties, which I'll come to as well. But so you will be kind of part of the overall program, but they are separate degree courses. So it's slightly tricky to do a mix of the two in that sense, but we do try to accommodate things. So, we have had people attend who are on campus part-time, but who, because it's been the easiest workshop or easiest craft and experimentation for them to attend, we have been able to make it so that you can attend the distance learning version. But yeah, fundamentally they are separate, and it's not, yeah. Strictly speaking, it's not possible to do a mix, but you can. But we will accommodate things where we can and where it works with the kind of timetable. Having said that, yes, absolutely. In response to that next question, distance learning students can visit campus, no problem whatsoever. And we're always really happy to see distance learning students on campus. We quite often have distance learning students attend for tutorials, for example, if they live nearby, or even sometimes people travel, from further afield for a tutorial across the program, just to see the campus and to meet us in person. So I had one just last week. And yeah, that's just great. So part of the reason why it's slightly tricky to have, for example, sometimes distance learners say to us, oh, can I attend my craft and experimentation, on campus this week, or my workshop on campus this week? But actually, because of the way that we teach, a workshop group, as the students have just mentioned, is its own kind of bonded community. So it's not always that feasible for just like a new person just to arrive for 1 week. It's about sharing feedback week on week and giving feedback to your peers, and then them giving it back to you. So that kind of exchange system breaks down a little bit if a distance learning student attends 1 week on campus or something. So actual teaching is a bit tricky. EP, editing and publication, that would be no problem to attend on campus. But just some of the other teaching where it's kind of workshop based is slightly trickier. But you absolutely can attend creative conversations. You can just come and chat to us. You can absolutely attend on campus as often as you like. Okay. I feel like, again, I've been talking quite a lot. So I was going to give an overview of some of the kind of extracurricular things that we have going on, and I've touched on them a little bit: creative conversations, reading parties, We had a zine fair a couple of weeks ago. But Claire, Devon Jenner, or Vivian, did one of you want to talk about that from a student perspective? Because it could be, well, it could be two things. It could be that there's lots of stuff going on extracurricular that I actually am not aware of. I'm sure there is. But also, it would be interesting to hear about what your sense of all those kind of extra activities that go on that are part of the program, but slightly separate to the main body of teaching.
I think I can talk a little bit about the open mics that we hold. So Colin hosted, I think we had 3 open mics through the 2 semesters. I found those open mics are extremely fun for me because I didn't know the concept of open mic before, and I have never attended any open mic back at home. So this is like a very new experience for me. And it's quite exciting for me to just like finish some like poem, kind of experimental work, and then be able to have a platform with the people I trust to share. Yes, I think though I really had a lot of fun in open mics.
Thanks, Vivian. Devon, Jenner, or Claire, anything to add to that?
I think Colin's reading parties are really a safe space to share your work, like Vivian pointed out. With people, like when you're writing, it's coming from a very, very vulnerable space, and you need to feel protected and safe, and you need to feel that your work is with people you can trust. And I think the reading parties that Colin arranges are exactly like that, where you can have so much fun just reading your work, and it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be uh like top tier. It's just for fun. And these are the reading parties that actually open up your perspective, and you get even more ideas from your peers about how your work can be. And when you listen to your peers being all experimental with their work, you get more and more inspired. I have Yeah, and same for me. I wasn't really aware of this whole concept of open mics, because back home I have never attended one, and back home it's not a thing, it's not something that happens now and then. So it was very new and a very refreshing change for me. And attending I have never actually read my work in one of our reading parties, but just by listening to everyone read their work, and which isn't always finished work, sometimes it's just unfinished work, to read their chapters of novels they're working on, it's just very inspiring. And at the end, you just go home feeling very hopeful that you have found people with whom you can share your baby, basically. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Devon Jenner. I feel like I have unfinished work, which is to make sure that you do read at a reading party. So we might have to arrange a final one. Claire, I don't think you missed a single Creative Conversations, or I certainly saw you at so many of the Creative Conversations events this year.
Yeah, I loved them. They were so good. We had such amazing writers come. My personal favourite was Gwendolyn Riley, because I love her work. So it was just amazing to be in a room with her and hear about her process and things. And I think that actually informed my last assessment. I wrote a lot about Gwendolyn Riley in it. But from a social point of view, yeah, the uni does great work with Creative Conversations. And it's beautiful. It's in the Glasgow University Chapel, and most of the lecturers go, and it's just a really nice way to meet people. I met friends there that were doing the DFA and had been there years before and things like that. So you meet lots of people, and you end up meeting these people at different events across Glasgow. I mean, aside from Colin's reading parties, there are opportunities to read your work and perform at lots of open mic nights across Glasgow. I mean, in the West End, they've got one in Curlers that I think Curlers Bar in Byers Road, that a former student hosts that, I think. You've got Alchemy Experiment, the coffee shop. They do nights as well. McNeil's, In Deep. They're all really good. Something that came out of our course that was really nice was on week 1, we started a WhatsApp group, and literally everyone on the course, part-timers, everyone, I think there was like about 45 of us on this WhatsApp. And it was just, people would like just post when there was an event on, or post when somebody had won something or been published. So there was this kind of group joy for everyone when something good happened or there was an event on for someone. So those kind of things can be really beneficial. I'm not a huge fan of big WhatsApp groups, but that was one that really helped, and helped us all get through our assignments and things as well, and just kind of be each other's cheerleaders in a way. So that was good. Yeah, I think you need to put yourself out there if you're going to take the time. And it's a short course. It's only 8 months. So you do need to just put yourself out there. And I'm not great at that, but I feel like by doing it, I have actually improved my writing by doing that, because I've been exposed to different types of writing, different types of writers and people. So I don't feel like my world's as small anymore as a writer.
Thanks so much, Claire. And yeah, you've also just brought to mind, because I was recently at the, oh, sorry, Nikki, you carry on.
I'll finish what you were saying first.
And no, I was just going to say, I wanted to mention the University Creative Writing Journal from Glasgow to Saturn as well. And there was a launch party for that. And it was great to see so many students from the program reading their work at that night as well. So that's one opportunity. And there are a lot of other kind of publications and things to get involved with around the university as well. Nikki.
Yeah, I was just jumping off of something that Claire said about giving open mic nights a chance. Yeah, it's kind of nerve-wracking, and that's part of the process and part of the fun. And I would say that all writers still get nervous, even no matter how experienced they are, and that's just part and parcel of performing and reading your work. And it's nothing to be scared of as such. And as we've said, there's a lot of safe spaces. I also just wanted to say that Glasgow itself in general is a really great and vibrant literary city at the moment, with lots of different things going on around the university, outside the university, all sorts of different things. Probably one of the most exciting places to be in the country, I would say, at the moment. Yeah, so that was just my input there.
Thanks so much. I absolutely agree as well. Okay, there's a few quick kind of administrative questions which I will address, and then there's one that is kind of more conceptual and might be interesting to talk about with everyone. So the question, I'm not sure if I've just missed it on the forum, do you need to submit a personal statement for this course, or is it solely the portfolio? So it's solely the portfolio that is required. Sometimes people do actually include within their portfolio a personal statement. You don't need to, but it can actually be quite useful. I sometimes find them useful when I'm looking through the applications, just to see maybe, it doesn't need to be long at all, like 200, 250 words, where you talk about maybe what you want to get out of the course, any experience you have as a writer, like any publications you've got, or, and also maybe your ambitions as a writer, maybe mention a couple of writers that you really admire, or sort of why you want to study at Glasgow. So yeah, it's not strictly speaking, part of the what's actually required, but you can include that as part of your portfolio if you want to, and it can be useful to see that. Then does that mean that part-time students who are working full-time can attend in person instead of distance learning, as there are after work class times? Yes, if you could make all of the on-campus times, then you would be able to. So even if you've been accepted onto the distance learning program, as long as you did that quite soon, there would be no problem in switching you over to the on-campus program from your distance learning offer. That would be fine. Okay, and then this last question is really interesting, because it's an area that is emergent in so many different aspects of our lives. So does experimentation also include ethically using generative AI large language models as creative tools, with all the limitations, problems, and possibilities of those? So I think that's a really interesting question, and I think it's one that we're still considering and kind of grappling with, and like, there's no kind of like firm answer about it, and there are things to be kind of aware of and kind of conscious of. For me, I would say that in terms of creative writing, as long as there's like an acknowledgement of where source material has come from, and there's no kind of attempt to sort of pass off AI generated work as kind of your own work, I think that the possibilities are quite exciting, and there are lots of possibilities to experiment with that kind of technology. Nikki, did you have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I do have some thoughts around this. I would say a firm yes. Avant-garde experimental writing has always been about disrupting writing and disrupting ideologies and ideas around society. And I think AI and ChatGPT are kind of different modern versions of that. So think cut-ups and other chance operations that exist, have existed in the avant-garde literary world. It's a kind of version of that. And I mean, I don't think AI programs are quite good enough to fool anybody at the moment. But yeah, I was doing ChatGPT this week with my family at the weekend, and I've never laughed so much for a long time. It's really a great tool, I think, for just coming up with weird ideas and just kind of playing around with kind of rhyming. You know, if you ask it to write a poem, it comes up with kind of crazy rhymes and stuff. So yeah, so I think it's definitely one to look at, and we could look at it in a group, and you know, there's great possibilities there for sure.
Thanks, Nikki. And any thoughts on that question from Devon Jenner, Vivian, or Claire? No worries if not, but just wondered if you had any perspectives. No. Okay, well then maybe just as a kind of final question for you then, is there anything you'd like to add that you feel like we haven't spoken about that is a part of the program that we've missed off in this kind of summary and introduction to the program?
I would just say that it's a very short 8 months, and just to make sure that you're getting the most out of it, concentrate on your race and not everyone else around you. It's difficult when you're working with so many talented people, everyone coming from different, they've all got their own wheelhouse, and you might feel a little bit sidelined, but you just need to concentrate on your own race, because you're on the course for a reason, and you just need to remember that. Don't worry about your dissertation at the end of the year. I thought I had mine all planned, and just decided this week to do something completely different, and it's made me so much happier. So yeah, don't worry too much about the assignments and things. I think when you read them at the start of the year and say, I've got this many words to do for this, this, and this, it can seem quite daunting. But if you just manage the workload as you're going along, you do find the assessments are very manageable.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Claire.
Can I jump in there as well, Colin?
Yeah, of course.
Just one thing in particular. If you're swithering about going full-time or part-time, I think part-time is a really good way to extend your sort of development period. So as Claire's saying, it's kind of short, 8 months, but if you do it over 2 years, it gives you double the time to be involved in the community and to be thinking about your writing. And yeah, I mean, I did mine part-time years ago because I was working, and I really appreciated the sort of longer sort of time period.
Yeah, someone that did it full time, I do now wish that I'd done it part time. So that's I don't wish I'd done it part time, because then you just get longer there and get longer in that community and the environment. Yeah, I agree with that.
Fantastic. Devon Jenner, were you on?
I just wanted to add one small thing. I think Vivian has already touched upon this. So if, like me, if you're someone who's writing in your second language, I think there is a lot of anxiety associated with it. And sometimes there will be, sometimes maybe you'll feel like just because it's your second language, you're not writing perfectly, as perfectly as you should. But I would just say, shake off those fears. You're in this, like Claire said, you're in this program for a reason. Whenever you're writing, you don't have, language is just a medium of communication, and you're here to tell your story in whichever way you think is best. So just take ownership of your language. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Devon Jenner. And anything finally from you, Vivian, before we say goodbye? We're in our last minute, I think. So yeah, anything from you?
Oh my God, this is so much pressure. Yeah, I think just like agreeing with what everyone is saying, I think it's really important to be confident with your own work. In this program, you can see so many different writings from all these different backgrounds of a group of people. But at the end of the day, you are the person who decides your own writing, and you should be the one to decide which style and which language that you want to use to best express yourself. Yes, I hope that's a good summary.
Great way to finish.
It certainly is. That's really great advice. So yeah, thank you so much for everyone who's listened in and for all your questions. We really look forward to reading your work when you're on the program, if you're an offer holder. And yeah, if you do want to get in touch at any time, please just do my emails on the website and Nikki's as well. So, please just email us for advice. Okay, I think all we need to do is thank Claire, Devon Jenner, Vivian, and Nikki. Thank you so much for your participation in this. And yeah, shall we just wave goodbye?
Yep.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, everyone.